So I agree with this, and it's to do with domestic violence. As we know, it's rampant around the country. In every community in this country, it's rampant. I can name in Cavan alone, up in court at the moment, there's about 7 cases of it going on. Uh, Through the court system at the moment, only in the last week. So it is very prevalent across the whole country, and there's incidents that we don't even know about. And in a lot of cases, people are very scared of the partners, etc. And obviously, that can't go on. But obviously, we've seen many times, and I've seen in Calvin myself, that there is men, particularly men, some women, of course, the majority are men, but who are with a woman, take for example, for a few months, right, and then they abuse that woman, and then that woman leaves them or gets fed or will look for a restraining order, etc., etc. And then they go off to Cork or down the country where they're not known in the community, if that makes any sense. That they're not known, they're not from that area, people don't know them, the women don't know who they are, etc. And I've seen instances of that in Cavan, that they separated with a woman and then they went down to Galway or they went somewhere else where they were not known or not from the area, and they got another woman. And this fellow, take for example, in one instance, the fellow was convicted of hitting their wife and abusing their wife and taking their money off their wife and basically controlling their wife. Which is obviously unacceptable. It's unacceptable in the modern world that you would control somebody, that you would tell them you can't go here and you can't do this and you can't do that, and you simply cannot do that, and it shouldn't be tolerated, because it's an abusive relationship, and that's as simple as that. So this is what this register is about. Domestic violence register. Pretty much it'd be accessed by the court service is one on it. I'm surprised it's not the Department of Justice, but it's the court service. I suppose it makes sense that there would be the court service, but I'm surprised not the Department of Justice. But along as it works, I suppose it'd be a good asset for many people, that they can find out, for example, if they meet a woman or meet a man, did they abuse their partner? Do they have records of being an abusive, like being abusive to their partner? So do they have a track record? Because there's many men, and particularly men, as I say, but them instance, you can look through their file and pretty much see it, like it's constantly happening. Every few months they move from one woman to the other and then abuse them and then abuse them. It's just the cycle keeps repeating itself. But this legislation is called Jenny's Law too, but people probably have heard of it. Um, um, it's necessary, really, really is necessary in the modern world, particularly because I see it all the time. Unfortunately, I see it all the time, every day in the courts in Cavan, and I hear about it all the time online, and I see things about it online. And unfortunately, I know some women that were abused by their partners, etc. And I know of one case of a man was being abused by a woman. That does happen, not as common as the other side, but it does happen from time to time. And of course, nobody should be going through that, being controlled. I did take, for example, the finances, told where to go, they can't go out, they can't do this, they can't do that. Basically, being a slave, pretty much, from what I would say. Nobody in the modern world should be like that. Nobody should put up with it, first of all. Nobody should be allowed to put up with that circumstances. Nobody should live like that, first of all. So it is very necessary. It's unfortunate, but it is very necessary. As I said, with that man he's from Cavan, he's an Irish fellow. He's not like a foreigner or anything. In this case, the foreigners doing it, of course, but so in a lot of cases too, there's Irish people doing it too. And this man from Cavan, as I said, he went down the country. He left a woman in Cavan. He was married to this woman, and he went down and found another woman in Galway where he wasn't known. And of course, she wouldn't have known. She couldn't telepathically know that this man abused his wife and done heinous stuff to his wife. He probably shouldn't have been let out, to be told on first of all, in prison. He was in prison for a while. He was in a few months, because he caused serious harm to her too, his wife. But of course, this woman didn't know that in Galway. She's hardly looking at the papers in Cavan to find out what's going on. But long story short, he done the same to her pretty much, and then the cycle keeps repeating. He probably now is with some woman in Donegal or someone like that. And this is what's happening. And the same thing. It's just all about power, and it's all about controlling. The same as the government. They want to control people. They want to micromanage every aspect of life, and that nobody should put up with that. But it's necessary, and I know some people complain about GDPR, but I think it's more. I think it's in the public interest, and public society's interest, that there is a register that people can check and see if, say, if they meet a man or meet a woman, they can check to see, do they have a history of abusing their partners. And I do think it's very necessary. It's unfortunate that we have to come to this point, but it's something, because it is rampant. It's rampant around the country. You look at any of your local papers, from the courts, either be in Logford, Cavan, Westmeath, wherever. It's full of it. It's full of it. Nearly every case, apart from other cases, of course. But there's many cases, nearly in every court in the country. There's probably nearly 30 cases a week. As I say, this at the moment in time. I can say there's about 7 in the courts in Cavan. Either relating to, in terms of they have mortgages and they're looking for the money back in terms of their mortgage, or they're looking for a restraining order, the whole shebang, and to do that. But it's a long, complicated procedure too when it comes to mortgages. People have half ownership of houses. It's a very complicated situation. And then when they're splitting up, it's very, very complicated. But it's very necessary, and I do support it. It's a good thing. We should have had it a few years ago, to be totally honest. But what I would say to people, if people are experiencing domestic violence through their partners, etc., not to put up with it, please try to get out. I know it's easy to say, but try and get out of it as quick as possible, because nobody should put up with that. No, life is tough already without having somebody controlling every aspect of your life, telling you what to do, etc., etc. And it shouldn't be tolerated in the modern society, and obviously it shouldn't be, regardless of who you are, regardless if you're from Timbuktu or you're from Ireland, wherever you're from. It shouldn't be tolerated. Either you're a man or a woman, whatever. Because as I said, there's cases of women abusing men, but it's not as prevalent as the other aspect. But it still needs to be talked about too. And then of course, if any child's involved, of course, that's 10 times worse. But anyway, let me know what you think. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you agree with the government's decision on this? Do you agree that the court service should be handled? But I think everybody would agree it's necessary. It is necessary. It's a sad state of affairs that we have to come to this point, but it's what's needed to protect a lot of women, particularly, because it's in the public interest, first of all, too, that this is public information that people can access. But anyway, let me know what you think. Subscribe for more, and bye.